How's it going, everybody? Wayne here. Today we have a lot of 15 NES games that I got, and I actually found this lot locally from my buddy Brian. This is a lot that actually pushed me over the top and finally made me decide that I was going to go for a complete in box NES set. When I first saw the lot, I was trying to debate whether I wanted to buy the whole thing or just a couple from that lot that I actually wanted to play. But Brian hooked me up with a really good deal on the whole lot, so I ended up buying them all. And if I didn't buy them all, I don't know if I'd be collecting for the entire library right now or not. Once I had them in the collection though, it was like a switch. I just started getting online and picking up more complete in box NES games, and that's where we're at today. So let's check out the new games we got for the collection. And the first game we have up today is Strider. Strider was developed and published by Capcom and released for the NES in 1989. Strider is an action-adventure platformer. When you start off the game, you are given your first mission as a Strider. That mission is to kill one of your own, Kane, because he was captured and now he's a liability to the organization. You take control of Hyrule and set off through the first level to find him. Along the way, you're greeted with tons of spawning enemies trying to kill you. The enemies respawn in the same spot even if you kill them. Besides enemies, you also find floppy disks that contain data that can be analyzed. After completing tasks, you have to go back to the very beginning of the stage and jump to get back to the headquarters. Once there, you can analyze the data that you collected, which gives you clues on where you should go next. As you progress through the levels, you can level up, giving you more health, and you can get tricks, which are weapons like plasma guns or the ability to heal yourself. The music in the game is really good. Just turning on the game, the sound is great. The graphics are okay, but they're not great. The gameplay is fun. It's awesome finding data, analyzing it, and figuring out where to go next. However, you only realize the gameplay is fun if you can get over the awful controls. You consistently get stuck in the middle of jumps on invisible things. And don't get me started on scaling walls. It feels completely broken. I'll eventually come back to this game and do a full playthrough. It's a good game if you can get over the broken controls. And Strider is game number 5 for the collection. Next up on the list is Roger Clemens MVP Baseball. Roger Clemens MVP Baseball was developed by Sculptured Software and published by LJN. It released for the NES in 1991. Roger Clemens MVP Baseball is a challenging baseball game that has a huge learning curve. The pitching is pretty straightforward. Use the A button to pitch and the D-pad to pick what type of pitch you want to do. For example, pushing down will throw a fastball, while pushing left or right will throw a curveball. After the ball is hit, the camera changes to where the ball is most likely to land. You can see the shadow of the ball when it's in the air to help you catch it. However, the landing of the ball isn't always accurate, allowing for missed outs. If you miss a catch, the opposing team will start racking up points if they have multiple players on the field because the outfielders are slow. However, you can get used to the outfielder experience fairly quickly. The real challenge is the batting. There are no boxes to line up. This is old-fashioned hand-eye coordination. The issue with batting is that there is only a split second to decide what kind of pitch the pitcher is throwing. Playing the game for the first time, I just decided to assume that every pitch was going to be a fastball. It would take a long time to become a pro at the game. There are better baseball games on the system that we will eventually cover. Roger Clemens MVP Baseball is game number 6 for the collection. Next up we have a war game, Platoon. Platoon was developed by Ocean Software and published by Sunsoft, releasing on the NES in 1988. Platoon is a game based off a movie of the same name. You start off in a Vietnam jungle, and you go through a maze to find your way out. The other levels are mazes as well. The graphics in the game are good. You can actually tell what the game is trying to portray. The music is also good in the game. Things go downhill fast after that though. The controls are terrible. The character is slow moving with fast enemies everywhere. First of all, there are tripwires everywhere. You have to jump over them or you get taken out. Jumping over the tripwires isn't hard, but you have enemies flip down from the trees right where you need to land. There isn't any time to flip around and shoot them. There are also enemies that are hidden in bushes that you can't even see until it's too late. If you do a jump of any sort, you better believe an enemy will spawn and either run into you or shoot you by the time you land. And as a reminder, this is a maze game, so if you make a wrong turn, you go back through everything to find another path. 4 hits takes a life, and after 4 lives it's game over. You probably can find the game more fun if you consistently play it and know which direction to go, or use the internet to find the way forward. Unless you do that, this game will frustrate you. Platoon is game number 7 for the NES Complete in Box Quest. Next up, a sports game, NES Play Action Football. NES Play Action Football was developed by TOS and published by Nintendo. It released on the NES in 1990. For a sports game on the NES, it has its good and its bad. Starting off, the visuals are bad. There is hardly any detail in the game. When playing single player, the AI can be pretty tough the closer they get to a touchdown. The controls are good and user-friendly. You'll be able to execute moves fairly easy. However, the players move super slow and running down the field can seem endless. One of the coolest things of the game is it offers up to 4 players. The game would probably be a lot more fun if you had a group of friends to play it with, unless one of them had COVID. NES Play Action Football is game number 8 for the library. Next up, a racing game, Bigfoot. Bigfoot was developed by Beam Software and published by Acclaim. It drove onto store shelves in 1990. Here is an annoying game that will make you want to smash your controller. The game starts off as a top-down racing game. You race your way across the map and you find money, weapons, and nitro along the way to help you win the race. You can win races every time if you figure out the secret. Simply collect the nitro and smash the A button when you get to the pavement at the end of the race. It's pointless to use the nitro during the race unless you're trying to get money or another power-up. Both vehicles have to be on the screen at the same time, so you can't fall behind. After the race, you get points and money for winning. Money is used to upgrade things like your engine, tires, and suspension. The next 2 races you'll find are side-scrolling races. Here you're required to alternate the left and right directional arrows to accelerate. How dumb is that? The gameplay is annoying. The AI constantly cuts you off and tries to saw you in half during the races. The controls are poor. The sound in the game is annoying as well. The only decent thing about the game is the graphics. Even those are nothing too special. Chances of me pulling this game off the shelf to play it again are slim to none. And Bigfoot is game number 9 for the NES Complete in Box library. Next up on the list is Kings of the Beach. Kings of the Beach was developed by Electronic Arts and published by Ultra. It's set on the store shelves in 1990. Here's a sports game that's actually pretty decent on the NES. The game is very user-friendly. When you get to the main menu, there are 3 practice stages where you can practice your bump, your set, or your spike. Doing all these allows you to learn the controls before playing a match or tournament. The graphics are nothing special, but they get the job done. The music is upbeat and enjoyable, and the controls are spot on. It's a game that anyone can pick up and play. To top things off, this is another 4-player sports game. Kings of the Beach is not a bad game to have in the collection. And Kings of the Beach is game number 10 for the NES library. Next up on the list is Jeopardy. Jeopardy was published by GameTech and released for the NES in 1988. Jeopardy has different difficulty levels to choose from easy to hard. The problem with playing Jeopardy on the NES is that many of the questions are outdated. Surprisingly, I did well in the game despite being only 3 years old when this game released. There are categories and questions that still hold true today, making it still playable. In single player, you'll face off against 2 random opponents. During my first game, I played against Glenn. Glenn is a real jerk and likes to taunt other players that just ignore his presence. If you are good at answering the questions from the 80s, you'll need to be good at spelling as well. If you have the correct answer but can't spell it correctly, it's possible to get the answer wrong. As far as gameplay, it follows the show as it should. It includes daily doubles, double Jeopardy, and Final Jeopardy as well. One thing that's odd in the game is that if the computer answers incorrectly, it just types a bunch of gibberish on the screen. Overall, Jeopardy is outdated, and you can find much newer versions to play. This is a game you'd own only if you're collecting for the system. Jeopardy is game number 11 for the NES Quest. Next up on the list is Track and Field 2. Track and Field 2 was developed and published by Konami and sprung onto shelves in 1989. Track and Field 2 is based off Summer Olympic Games. Starting off the game, you can choose from Training Mode, Olympic Mode, or Versus Mode. Training Mode allows you to play all the different events. All this mode is good for is practicing for the Olympic events, but it doesn't teach you the controls. You'll need the manual for that. When you choose the Olympic mode, you'll start off on day 1. Each day has 3 events. You must qualify on all 3 to advance. If you don't qualify in all 3, it's game over. Some of the controls can be rough after playing for a while. Many of the events require you to rapidly smash buttons to gain speed or momentum. One of the worst events is the hammer throw. You have to make circles around the D-pad as fast as you can to circle the player around. It can tear up your thumb after a while. In events like the triple jump, it's near impossible to fill up the power meter with just your thumb tapping the A button. The graphics are decent with plenty of detail. The music is average and the gameplay is fun in short dosages. Overall, Track and Field 2 isn't a bad game, but I won't be coming back to it anytime soon. And Track and Field 2 is game number 12 for the NES Complete in Box library. Next up, another sports game, golf. And I'd much rather get the sports games out early on than wait till the end like I did with the NES Complete in Box Quest. Golf was developed and published by Nintendo and released in 1985 for the NES. Golf can be played with 1 or 2 players. In 1985, this game was probably awesome, but it didn't hold up well. When teeing off, you can only choose limited directions to aim your ball. With a lot of the terrain, that becomes a huge limiting factor. You're often required to make shorter shots just to avoid going out of bounds. As you get closer to the hole, it gets difficult to control the power and do short hits and land on the green. Despite all this, I was able to make a birdie shot and that felt rewarding. The game also doesn't have any music playing. Some tunes in the background would have been nice. In reality, you really can't knock on a game that was released in 1985. Golf is game number 13 for the collection. Next up on the list is Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball was developed by Atlas and published by LJN. It swung on the store shelves in 1988. Major League Baseball was the first licensed Major League Baseball game on the NES. However, it couldn't use the players' names, but only their numbers because it wasn't backed by the Players Association. The game has the same style as Roger Clemens' MVP Baseball. Batting requires hand-eye coordination, but it's much easier in this game because you have more time to react. However, it can be difficult to line the ball up. I had many strikes that felt like they should have been connected with the ball. The characters are cartoony looking without much detail. The outfield experience is where the game goes downhill. After the ball is hit, the screen turns completely green for a second. When you chase the ball, the camera can change angles, making you control another player automatically. This can have you running in the wrong direction. You also have to pick up the ball at the right angle or you'll miss it. Overall, I like the hitting in this game much more than Roger Clemens' MVP, but the outfielder experience was better in MVP. There are better baseball games on the system to choose from though. Major League Baseball is game number 14 for the NES Complete in Box Quest. The next game up on the list is Wheel of Fortune Family Edition. Wheel of Fortune Family Edition was published by GameTech and released for the NES in 1990. This game looks a lot like the Jeopardy game we just covered. What's more is it's almost identical to the first Wheel of Fortune game released 3 years earlier on the NES. This is one of 4 Wheel of Fortune games on the system, all which were released by GameTech. In this version of the game, you don't hear the host or see any characters spin the wheel. You just spin the wheel, buy a vowel, or solve the puzzle. The game also includes a bonus round where you can play for prizes like a Bentley or an emerald necklace. Like Jeopardy, a lot of the puzzles are outdated. This is another game you'd only want to have if you're a collector. Wheel of Fortune Family Edition is game number 15 for the NES library. Next up on the list is Dick Tracy. Dick Tracy was developed by Real Time Associates and published by Bandai. It released on the NES in 1990. Dick Tracy is a mystery game based off a comic of the same name. The objective of the game is to solve clues and lock up criminals. You can review notes and mugshots to help you solve the mystery. You'll start off in a top-down view of the city driving your car. You'll need to drive to the destination that the clue gave you. Along the way, the rooftops are lined with snipers, and they are incredibly accurate. Your car can only shoot straight ahead, so the best way to take out the snipers is by getting out of the car. This part is where the game gets most of its bad reviews from. However, you can learn paths across the city that'll help you avoid the snipers. Once you get to your destination, Tracy gets out of the car and goes into the building. Then it turns into a side-scrolling level. There are a mix of bad guys. Some will shoot you, others will just punch you. If you shoot an unarmed enemy that only punches, you take the hit because Tracy is a good guy cop. Once you find your suspect, you can interrogate him or arrest him. If you don't have enough info to accuse him and arrest him, you start over. The game is fun when you get over the challenge and learn the best routes to take. It's fun solving clues and hunting down criminals. The controls are a bit wonky, but you can overcome them. The music is average and the graphics are decent. Dick Tracy is a game I'll come back to and play, but it's not for everyone. Dick Tracy is game number 16 for the NES Complete in Box Quest. The last 3 games in this lot I actually have coming in other lots that are either more complete or in better condition, and those games are Jordan vs. Bird, RC Pro-Am, and Bases Loaded. I'll be covering these games when I get them in the other lot, but today we're not going to be adding them onto the counter. What do you say we get these games on the shelf? If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to subscribe. I'll be collecting the entire NES library, complete in box, right here on this show. Until next time, I'm Wayne, and thanks for watching.